that's your setup here, and we're ready to go. So what I've done now is create a track. Now you'll see here MIDI 01. What I did was go up here to project and add track, and I added a MIDI track. All right. I only need one track. A little known fact is that MIDI has 16 channels, and all 16 channels can exist on one track. The channel keeps the information separately. Now, I know a lot of people like to work by having multiple tracks, but I'm thinking music now. I've got two hats I have to wear now. One is my musician hat, all right, when I'm playing, and one is my engineering hat when I have to mess around with the computer, okay? So I want to minimize that engineering hat. I want to take that off when I'm ready to play. Once I'm ready to play, I just want to play. I want the computer to do what it does best, record my data, okay? So here I have one MIDI track. Notice that the input here says all MIDI inputs. I showed you where we define that. The only input that's coming in is port 1, which is my montage. The output is montage port 1. So it's going to take MIDI coming in and it's going to echo it back to the montage. All right, and I've set the MIDI channel to any. Now you can notice here if I click on that any, you can see that I could set it to any track 1 through 16, any MIDI channel 1 through 16. But any is an actual thing. I have to always say, literally, set it to any. Don't just pick any, but set it to A-N-Y, any. What that means is the MIDI channel that I send in is the MIDI channel it will echo back on. A little known fact, I mean, we all know this when we learn basic MIDI. When you put a note on, the note on includes the MIDI channel. That's part of the data. It's already encoded. That setting for MIDI channel rechannelizes data for the output. So what I want is the channel that I send in is the channel that I want it to come back out on. So I set it to any. This will allow me to, once I start recording, not to have to worry about stopping, not having to worry about opening a new track, setting up the track inspector. Everything I need is already set. When I'm ready to edit, if I make any mistakes and I want to edit the data, that's when I need to see it separately. For now, it can all exist on one track. Now, the basic idea I'm going to show you is how to do like loop type recording. So I'm going to set up a marker here so that I'm doing just 4 measures. Life is short and we might as well keep this nice and short and sweet. So I set the markers now so that it will cycle between measures 1 and it'll complete. So I set it to 5 here. The top of measure 5 is 4 complete measures. All right. And this icon here on the transport that lights up purple is it looks like a looping circle there. That's your cycle mode that will automatically allow you to cycle around as if you were in pattern mode. Now down here, since I'm going to be recording drums, I can set up what's going to happen. So here's my MIDI cycle record mode. I have it mix. Mix means I don't have to record everything in one pass. When it comes back around, I can add new things. And auto quantize, I have it set up to 16th notes, so you can automatically correct your data going in. So it makes you sound great immediately. You don't have to tell your friends you quantize. Well, that'll be our secret. All right, so here we go. So I have the tempo set at 100 beats per minute. Now in Cubase, you can go to the dedicated tempo track. You can go to project and somewhere here, yeah, tempo track, and you can set the tempo as you need. The default is 120 beats per minute. I've set it to 100. I always change the tempo just to let people know you can. I've run into a lot of customers who say, gee, everything I record is at 120. I go, well, you can change that. That's up to you. It defaults to 4/4 time. That's fine for what I'm going to be doing. 100 beats per minute. So now I have Cubase set up and ready to go. All right. So now I'm going to call my musicians. The studio is waiting for my musicians to show up. So let's focus on the montage here. I went to category search and I touched the knit and I selected the knit that is the multi-GM. And what this does now, it sets up 16 parts, all right? Each part on a separate MIDI channel. Part control allows me to select these parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it flips the page, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now I can choose any sounds I want for this. I always recommend to musicians, take your time, choose your musicians. Call your musicians before you go to the studio, all right? It's very important. You don't go to the studio, record the drummer, and then go, oh, maybe I should call a bass player. You know, it breaks your workflow. Select a couple of instruments and start to record. So I'm going to show you just a 4-part recording here so you can get an idea. So I'm going to touch part 1 in the screen here, and it's going to search for me. I go to search, and what I'm going to do is call up a drummer. So I'm going to go to drums and percussion. I'm going to find the Power Standard Kit, number 1. So I have drums on track 1. In part 2, I'm going to get the bass player. So again, I touch, I search for bass. I'm searching for electric bass. And here's my Velo bass. I love the Velo. Oh my goodness, 2 sounds are playing. What's going on? Well, keyboard control is on. I don't need keyboard control, so I'm going to turn those icons off. What that means now is when I select a part, I'm playing just that part. So if I select part 1, I have my drums. And when I select part 2, I've got the bass. All right, let's go to part 3. And what I'm going to look for now is some kind of a clavinet, because I'm old school. That's where I live. Let's go to clavie, a nice FM clavinet.